Yo, what is up? It is Tuesday night. You know what that means? It is the Dynasty Daddy Trade Show. No Jeremy tonight, somewhere in Switzerland, but no problem. We have Coach Dan from Dynasty Theory filling in. Let's get into it. Appreciate it, Dan, for hopping in, filling in for Jeremy while he is in another country. GEGP, what is up, Sean? I want to start the stream off this way before we even get into any trade questions. If you could let me know, why don't you introduce yourself? You know, I'm sure 98% of the people that would watch a Dynasty Daddy live stream Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time would be familiar with Coach Dan and Dynasty Theory. But why don't you introduce yourself, plug your stuff, anything you got going on with the Dynasty Theory crew and the Destination Dev guys.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. Love being here tonight. You know, I'm a football coach by trade, but there's a little baseball probably way back when, so I'm happy to pinch hit for Jeremy. You know, I actually got to meet him last year at the Fantasy Football Expo in Ohio, and Jeremy and Mrs. Dynasty Daddy was there as well, so much respect for his missus there, being out at a Fantasy Football Expo with him. But yeah, man, part of the Destination Devy team with my Dynasty Theory brothers, the Bauer Club and Dino MC every Monday night live at 9 o'clock. And find me at Coach Dan Dynasty on the X. Whereas the guys like to bust me, Coach Dandy Nasty. When you kind of look at it, I got to work on that X handle a little bit. But Will the Thrill, man, pleasure to be with you tonight.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm a big 2x speed watcher, and wow, interrupted by Waffle Hauser with the $20 super chats. Get the air horns going. Ooh. Appreciate it. We got super chats on. I can't hang, but keep getting after it and growing team. Hey, Waffle Hauser, if you have a trade question you want to throw in or something, $20 worth, regardless, they'll appreciate it. Thank you so much. That is, wow, what a way to start the stream. The I don't know, maybe you brought it in. That's the biggest. I mean, we've only had it for like a week and a half. The biggest super chat to this point. It's got to be the Dan Dynasty edition. Maybe we'll make this a recurring thing. It's get Jeremy.
We'll take that good mojo here for sure. Will.
But I actually do want to start while we're waiting on some. Actually, we've got I can pull up a trade we had from earlier. But thank you again, Waffle Hauser. Appreciate it. We had a message that came through in the chat earlier, and we all know that Will's doing his best on the stream. You know, sometimes the chats don't pull through and populate properly, but we're doing it live right here. Shout out to Kyle in the chat earlier before the stream was pulled up and things rendered properly. Keon Coleman for Brenton Strange. Don't have a specific format, but I guess just kind of general player takey. I think, you know, startups, naturally, I assume, this was me, yes, Kyle. I assume, let's give a 0.75 tight end premium to give Strange the extra bump. I don't know the exact startup ADP, but I assume Keon's got to jump on him by at least a couple rounds, even with the somewhat disappointing rookie season. But where are you at on Keon Coleman specifically going into this year with the, are we buying back in on Elijah Moore? Is this the Josh Palmer 3-year deal?
I don't like to go to the well too many times with the same guy, so it's hard to go that Elijah Moore well. Not saying he wouldn't be on any of my Dynasty rosters, but definitely nothing that scares me away from Keon Coleman. Am I high on Keon Coleman? No. Is there a path to him to have take that next year leap again this year? Anytime Josh Allen's your quarterback, he's a young talent, hopefully putting the work. There's some touchdown upside there. So I say he's maybe a little more attractive than a Brenton Strange. So, 1 for 1, I might lean Keon Coleman, but 1.7 premium if I do need to fix my tight end position. Brenton Strange is another guy that you're hoping takes that leap with Evan Ingram out of town in Jacksonville. So lean Keon Coleman, but that's a fair trade that I think you can make an argument either way.
Yeah, and I think Keon, and I think my fascination with like Keon, the Keon range of receivers that is not like difference making production, but can give you spike weeks. You know, we saw with random touchdown games with Buffalo last season. Is I'm like willing to hold these guys, especially when they don't hold the dynasty value in the streets. Like I feel like the excitement of Keon, wide receiver 1, heading into his rookie year versus where we're at right now. But I don't know where. It wasn't too long ago. How long do you say we were talking about it before? How long have you been playing Dynasty, Dan?
Oh man, I don't know if I want to say this out loud
I
because
don't, I don't want to age you.
Mitch
You
and
could give a
John,
range.
they be calling me the dinosaur of the show, man. But like, I was literally in high school, which was I probably started playing in 10th grade, which was 1993. All right,
Okay.
when they used to use magazines instead of like awesome websites like the Dynasty Daddy website,
Mm.
but you'd be pulling up this magazine and we'd be like drafting in class. So we're a few decades into this. Well,
Yeah, I remember the year 3 breakout for wide receivers, and I feel like that was only 6 or 7 years ago that was the sentiment of, you give wide receivers the second, the third year. That's when we see the big jump in production fantasy wise. And I feel like Dynasty, it's hilarious as like a long-term game. The perspective of so many rookies is like you're dead after the first year. Like if you're not giving me difference making production immediately in a good situation, like I don't want anything to do with you. You're not going to improve. That's who you are. So I think Keon will be an interesting case study, but hard to get super excited about the year 2 breakout with, I'm not going to hype up Elijah Moore and Josh Palmer too much, but I feel like last year's situation kind of felt like Keon's opportunity with, disappointing Kincaid and Curtis Samuel, nowhere to be found except on 60% of Will's underdog best ball teams that did not advance to any finals. Because they were reliant on Curtis Samuel to come through there. But we'll pull up here. We've got, I don't even want to pull this one up. Tristan, we got to be respectful to the host. Okay, who is this jabroni and where is Jeremy? Jeremy is in Switzerland, and this is not a jabroni. We put some respect on Coach Dan Dynasty's name. I'd want to see the format here, Rayru, but I feel like I'm hearing a lot of, I've been listening to a lot of Dynasty Theory lately, and I feel like you're out on the oldies, Dan. Kamara or Burden? If you need that running back, you trading away Luther Burden early second for Alvin Kamara?
only if I was really desperate for that extra running back, and I have a roster that really is built to win now, and running back is all I need. I'll take some Kamara points for one season, but in general, you're right. I am out on those oldies. I'm an ageist a bit there. Give me the Luther Burden in 20 years of football versus what do we have left with Kamara realistically? A couple years, of quality production. So I'd rather Burden. I wouldn't want to do that. It would really take a specific situation to get me there.
Yeah, I get that too. And I think I like some of these like Kamara, Connor guys that have gotten the extensions enough to make you feel decent about the 2-year projection. But I don't know how decent you can feel about the New Orleans Saints offense this season. But, not that they've been super exciting the past couple seasons, and he's been able to get his 6-7 receptions a game. That's 7 PPR points right there. But, I think the tough thing with Burden for this year, and I think he's going to be an interesting look heading into the season with the injury. Ben Johnson's talking about, you can't get on the field. We can't, set up the offensive scheme and figure out what you're able to do. And that's a former Lions fan. I don't want to get too into my feelings about Ben Johnson, how he's handling his first head coaching stint. But no, I think that's tough, especially for a rookie like Burden in that kind of crowded situation. But I have no problem shipping away. I'm a big send away my seconds. If I've got a strong competing team and I like really, really need the running back points, I don't mind it. But I do like Luther Burden a decent amount. I mean, I would probably try to find a cheaper way to do this. If I'm able to just send like a future second and get to hold on to, the current receiver who I'm pretty excited about the projection for, this season. Kind of by that time there, I'd be more wanting to do that kind of move, but I think that's totally fair for an oldie RB. All right, Hill Bullies here. 12 by 10 Superflex. I have JD5 and Cam Ward at QB, Bijan, JT at running back, Amonra, Ladd, and Matthew Golden. We'll talk about that later. At wide receiver, TJ Hawkinson at tight end. Traded Ladd and JT for Neighbors and Trey Benson. So this is plain scoring. Is that, you think that's standard? Hill Bullies, can you let me know? Is that what the plain scoring is, standard? Or are you saying there's no tight ends in the deal, so I assume that's not negating any kind of tight end premium with the plain scoring note. But we'll assume standard for a second, even though we don't get a lot of standard questions. In general, are you trading away Ladd and JT to get that Malik Neighbors and Trey Benson? 12 by 10.
Like all four of those players. but I don't think, even though I think Neighbors is the premier guy, and I imagine that was his thought process, and I think he definitely got the best guy in the deal. That's hard for me to give up Lad and JT. I feel like you're giving up 2 stars for 1 megastar and a promising player that we're hoping, has a 1B role with Connor, and eventually Connor retires and maybe Benson could be the man. And if that happened, maybe again playing the long game, that could be a good deal. But I love Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, and I love Ladd. So again, it's 2 studs for 1. It's a good trade for both teams. I guess I'd say, Will, like, what's your philosophy? Would you rather the 2 stars on your team, like the 2 you believe in, Ladd and JT, or the 1 megastar in Neighbors?
Yeah, usually I will say my sentiment typically is give me the best guy, and if I regret the trade, I can flip Neighbors for a similar-ish package. But I think it's a pretty strong offer. Like, I think Ladd and JT is more than fair enough to trade up in that elite tier. I will say the 12 by 10, looking at the roster itself, going up and getting Malik. So it's going to be, I mean, the only running backs mentioned were Bijan and JT. So you're trading away JT. You're getting Trey Benson. I'm curious if there's any kind of running back position there. Amonra, Golden, and Neighbors. So I'd be curious to see the rest of the team. I feel like if I had some old wide receivers that, maybe Hillbillies didn't want to mention because they weren't exciting fantasy dynasty names and wanted to talk about Ladd and Golden and Amonra and Bijan and JT. Like, if there were some older players that could kind of fill out the starting lineup for the season, I could see myself paying up for Neighbors because I feel like I can supplement losing JT and filling in with James Conner or, maybe even grosser than that. We've got, I forgot to plug it, but this might be a good time to plug it. We've got the new video, the Dynasty Daddy channel, Contender Buys. Check it out after the stream, not right now. But that's a fun one. 9 running back contender buys. We've got DeAndre Swift on the cover. I know you were talking about that in the last Dynasty Theory stream. Swift as a good buy. We're just talking about the contenders there. And then Thursday nights, Underdog Drafts, Best Ball and Dynasty Q&A. This is always going to be a Dynasty channel, but Will is going to be ripping some Best Ball drafts. So why not stream them and yap about Dynasty while I do it? So little plug there. But the contender buys, I think if you had some of those guys that you felt like you could fill out the roster, for me, it's giving me the elite asset. And if I regret the trade later in the season, and I mean, I don't know if I would even want to flip Malik Neighbors or find another way to fill out my roster, I think I can do that. Or find a team that will give me a similar enough package.
If Neighbors is a guy, that is a nice landing. I'm probably hypocritical because if that was like CD Lamb, I'd be all over it.
Okay, I was going to ask.
So much volume for Ladd.
I'm curious.
Ladd's just pretty close.
Yeah, and yeah, no disrespect to Ladd at all. I think, but I'm curious. You talked about if that was CD Lamb. So where's Neighbors on the Coach Dan Dynasty wide receiver rankings? Because I was just talking about him as wide receiver
right after
too for
Lamb.
me. Okay.
It's like Chase Jefferson, Lamb, Neighbors. So I mean, it's I could definitely understand his trade.
Yeah,
I mean, that could be a 2. Will, like, I'm Homer Cowboys fan here, so we're talking about a New York Giant and Neighbors. So it's a little tough for me.
that's fair. I can still see the Cowboys logo on that chair behind you. That hasn't faded off yet. We got Big Diaz in here. Coach,
holding up.
Damn. Is that Cena? Will tell me if that's
Diaz.
John Cena. I can't see it. And John Cena making an appearance in the newest Contender Buys video. Jeremy started the video with, so you think you're a contender? Are you sure about that? And I just couldn't stop myself as a video editor and not put in the GIF of John Cena saying, "Are you sure about that?" Couldn't do it.
I caught that. Kudos to that clip, buddy.
Appreciate it. All right, we got Keon, but what about Kincaid then? Tight end for tight end. So would you? This was an initial question. Brenton Strange for Kincaid. You have a preference there? Making the Jags revamped offense with Travis Hunter bet on Strange that the Mac Jones production we're gonna get to see this season, or buying back in on Kincaid.
Although they're like a tier apart to me, and I've come off my like Dalton Kincaid high horse because I love Kincaid. I was trying to overpay him They overpay from him like last offseason, couldn't get enough shares. And it's probably a gift that I didn't because it never really materialized in Buffalo. I'm still a little bullish that there's going to be more in Kincaid. And I'm a lot more confident on what he could give than Brenton Strange. I think there's more of a gamble in Strange. So for me, 1-for-1, that doesn't add up. It would have to be Strange and something for me to even move Kincaid in that deal. So get Kincaid if you could.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, I think it would not take much for Kincaid to recoup enough value for you to be able to move him. And I think Strange, even though we did get to see a decent stretch at the end of last season, I feel like the Travis Hunter edition kind of muddies things so much that I think you would need to see a couple weeks of Strange to meet the value of what Kincaid could give you with similar production. Hater Maker, I remember having to wait
Tight
for
end
newspaper.
position gets so ugly.
Oh yeah, I took my first. I'm kind of curious. I do want to acknowledge this. I remember having to wait for newspapers on Monday morning to see the stats to see if you won the fantasy matchup. That's beautiful.
They were the good old days. I think I was telling you before, as I was mentioning before, back in the 90s, we were in class, drafting players, but there was a USA Weekly or a Baseball Weekly, Football Weekly, whatever fantasy game you were playing. I'd be the commissioner back then. I'd have to tally up those stats. I'll have to be by hand. So now I'm really aging myself. I'm asking for it here, Will, but
There's probably a strong
man,
edge.
That was the days.
I remember this was my first kind of years doing redrafts where we would still do in-person drafts where we would put you'd buy like a whole set that had all the names and you would get to put them up on the boards yourselves. And I was the only guy who brought a computer with me that like I could kind of keep track, and I had an Excel sheet that had all the names that I could pull down. Insane edge versus my drunk friends who were looking at the names that were pulled up. Won the league that year, but I don't know if that's worth bragging about. Kyle here, will y'all do any redraft analysis this year? Yeah, Jeremy and I have talked about that a little bit. I mean, obviously Dynasty Daddy, the focus, the weekly live streams, Dynasty focus throughout the season. We'll be doing Dynasty stuff. I don't know exactly. I don't want to make any claims for what the future of the Dynasty Daddy YouTube channel will be throughout the redraft season. I'm sure there will be redraft style content, even if it's in a Dynasty focused mindset. But at the very least, there will be football videos, YouTube videos on the channel throughout the season. I can't promise you that.
I think it's the one good thing, yourself and Jeremy, there's a lot of football knowledge there. And hey, we both have Dynasty podcasts. We're just talking football every week. I think that's a good thing for listeners to know. Like, hey, whatever format you play, we're breaking down these players by age, and you can apply it to redraft. So I think there's always something to take there.
And I've been talking about it. Dynasty so much is just redraft where you keep the team is what Dynasty feels like. That like throughout the season, it's every team is a contender except for the couple of teams that have committed to the tank for that season. And I actually I think a lot of people talk down on it from the perspective of like it just turns into redraft, like nobody's really playing Dynasty anymore. But to me, I think there is like the perfect balance of wanting to keep that contending window extended and open as long as possible. So I know you talk about your oldies and not wanting to buy into the Camaras, and I know you mentioned Devontae Adams as well, not really wanting to buy him at his current price. And we've talked about loving buying Devontae Adams, but I do think there is a balance to keeping enough ammo in the weapon to be able to do that year after year. And so I have a strong competing team. It is a small PPC league. I traded away Devontae Adams for a first, and to me, I've got a strong enough receiving room in that league, and I see it as, yes, I like the production, would love it on a contending team. I traded to another contender who's going to contend, but I can buy another Devontae Adams whenever I need to with probably less than that first in a future season. And I think those kind of moves is how you really create a dynasty.
There you go.
We got Chuck here. Hey, what's up? In addition to creators such as yourself, where do you go for finding updates on training camp battles and in the weeds risers? I'm going to let you go first because I'm going to mute myself and cough. I'm getting over being sick. I'm doing my best. I'll let you go.
We got you, Will. You've been going strong, man. Will's like the Michael Jordan of podcasting tonight. Not 100%, just keeping it together and plowing through with great content. But for me, find that I love Twitter, but to put that in context, or the Twitter X, I can't get away from the name Twitter. But if you follow whoever you follow, look to see if they have any lists created in Twitter. To me, this is always like a tip or trick. If you went to my X page there and you just click on the tab that takes you to lists, you'll see I follow NFL beat reporters. I just got hundreds of NFL beat reporters. So I'm grabbing all that content. Whenever I need specific content, I'm not just following my thread of everybody I follow on the X. That's like 3,000 people, but it's not all fantasy football or it's not all specific fantasy football information. So I love going there to find content on specific teams, camp news, just a really good insight from coaches and the reporters that follow the teams. Surviving there, Will?
Yeah, it was perfectly timed out. I was able to walk in the corner and cough. If I'm getting really sweaty tonight, guys, it is the Jordan flu game. So I hope I deliver Dynasty content equivalent wise to what Jordan did in that game. But no, I love that. I haven't thought about the listing. That is really good for me. I found some key accounts that I really like on Twitter. Twitter is for me too, and I think Discord is great. If you are in an active enough Discord with other Dynasty people who want to not just talk and reference moves that have made or updates or training camp news reports and everything, but want to immediately turn that into, okay, where are we at with this player? Or like, oh, would you sell this guy at this point? Because Dynasty is such a reactive game, and I think like timing the market is so huge. So for me, I think some of the big accounts like the 32 beat writers, I really like, highly recommend following that account on Twitter. That is great for just little tidbits. There's the, I know Coach Speak Index has a lot of great posts that kind of are referencing and talking through and rating like how much you should trust certain reports that come from certain coaches. I don't want to get too into the AI weeds right now. I did for a moment really want to try to find an efficient way to get to take these 45 minutes these like interviews and post practice press conferences and everything, and like break things down and try to find little tidbits, but that was not fruitful. So highly recommend following the accounts that are doing the Lord's work out there. But yeah, and even things like in the off season, like the Underdog Twitter account that posts like when transactions happen or signings. Obviously you can follow like the Schefters of the world, but I think those like beat writer accounts are huge. And finding, the list is a great note, because there are certain beat writers that I trust more than others across certain teams. So yeah, definitely highly recommend checking out the lists like Dan had talked about, and definitely 32 beat writers at the very least is a must follow in my opinion.
Yeah, it's good ways to cut out the clutter, So if I have like this one list of I don't know how many 100 writers, 150, whatever. So that's better than trying to scroll through 3,000 people you follow on Twitter. But then to your point, Will, hey, some of them aren't as reliable or as good as others. So then I might take some of them and put them in like a favorites list or best in the business. Like I have a few different lists, and I could cut that clutter all the way down to my top 100. It's quick news at your fingertips without going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and shout out to Scott Connor, Destination. I mean, I don't need to reference and talk about who Scott Connor is. I'm sure everyone that's watching this stream is familiar, but I think he talked about having different Twitter accounts where one is only following, he's got one for the Bengals where he's like all the Bengals stuff. So he switches over to that one to see all the Bengals stuff. Just because when you start following different, like, you're interested in other things, and, maybe it's like a gaming or like a streamer or, your football team or a basketball team and all these different things, you can really clutter your page. So I think for me, I want to try that out this season, is having an account this is like my news report account. So I'm following all the beat writers, 32 beat writers, Coach Speak Index. I'm able to reference all those. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know how that goes. All right, we got a trade here. John P. Trade away Andrews for the 204 while Loveland is still available. So basically Andrews for Loveland straight up. Yeah, I love that. I would do that in an instance. Do you have any?
Smash.
I don't even need to know any kind of format questions. And I'm not even out on Mark Andrews, like in terms of like this season or next for like where he's going value wise. But I mean, a lot of that production is touchdown based. I don't think we're getting the Mark Andrews from 3 seasons ago. That was a wide receiver at the tight end position. I think he's kind of fallen back into this elder statesman tight end
Really
production.
feel bad for him too. It's that crucial drop in the playoffs that really cost the Ravens. Not that one play necessarily determines the whole game, but that was big. But to your point, I'm not out on Andrews either. Hey, I like having him on my rosters. He's still a dude. Man, a couple years of Andrews or a whole career of Loveland.
Oh yeah, and I love doing this thought exercise. I think Jeremy gets annoyed a little bit when I do it, but man, Colston Loveland week 1 goes 6 for 80 and a touchdown. Like, what are you getting for that on the market versus Mark Andrews going 6 for 80 and a touchdown? Like, those are two totally different stratospheres of value. I'm not saying that's likely to happen, but you just gotta. I think in terms of like dynasty value and the grind in the season and kind of moving players around and not even holding a Loveland for his whole career, especially if it's whatever, not tight end premium and you don't think tight ends matter at that point. I like doing those thought exercises. Shout out to Chuck.
For sure.
Loved the video today. The content and editing was great. This is not my alt account. I wanna put that out there. This is a real life human. Thank you, Chuck, for the kind words. Definitely check out the video, guys. Appreciate it. I'm late. Did they answer where our dynasty daddy Jeremy is? Did everyone wish Jeremy, our dynasty daddy, a happy Father's Day on Sunday? He is in Switzerland with dynasty mommy. I immediately regret it.
Living the life right now.
Saying that it does look beautiful. The picture. I think he posted one in the Discord in one of the. I think he wanted everyone to know that if they have tech questions about the Dynasty Daddy site, he's probably not going to be able to respond. And I am of no help, so don't come to me. If you're in the Discord, you got a question on something to do with the Dynasty Daddy website, I'm just here to look pretty and sweaty on the live streams. D-Hop on the bench. I assume this is back to Hillbillies. Okay, this was wide receiver wise. Yeah, I would not. I don't know. Where are you at with? Do you have any like D-Hop Kansas City production versus D-Hop Baltimore production this season? Is D-Hop meaningful to you on any of your dynasty rosters right now? That's what I'm really trying to get at.
Like he lost me at D-Hop there. Like I think your team is really struggling if you need D-Hop at this point. I just don't know how much gas is left in that tank. I think this is the coach of me by trade, and this is what I love about playing fantasy football, having coached so long. You see a guy like Hopkins that comes to the team, he's a role player, and I think that's what he was in Kansas City. I think the fantasy production's long gone. Maybe you catch lightning in bottle for one game, but the way the Ravens are built, it's through the running game and Henry's, through Lamar running, and they could pass, but it's going to be Flowers, and then it's going to be Bateman, and then it's going to be Andrews. There's not much meat left on that bone for DeAndre Hopkins there. So, if you get like 2 catches for 20-some yards in a game, that's probably going to be your average.
Yeah, and I don't think – I assume most people in the chat are not trying to rely on DeAndre Hopkins after last season. He'll definitely – there will be a D-Hop game this season, this year that is just, 4 for 90 and a touchdown. And you're like, oh, D-Hop.
Balls in the end zone, luckily.
Should I put D-Hop in the lineup next week? And the answer will definitely be no.
33. Receivers just don't last that long,
Yeah. Can the guy on the left draw on a beard and wear a Jeremy wig? The people are missing their dynasty daddy, Dan. But
Jeremy is loved, man. I have huge shoes to fill tonight, and we're not filling them. We're just holding it down till he gets back from Switzerland.
And I'll tell you what, Coach Dan can yap with the best of them. All right, he may not be able to make the kind of website that Jeremy can make, but we're not making websites here tonight. We're just yapping about Dynasty.
Speaking of yapping, Will, you mentioned liking things on 2x speed, listening back to your podcast. Does the Bauer Club sound like 100 times speed when you listen to it back on 2 times speed? Because he talks really fast.
He does. I will say he's the one that I do appreciate the speed of the 1x talking, because when I'll listen to, like, I'll catch a stream live. So for anyone who didn't hear me talking about it, I am a 2x speed watcher. I don't know if anybody else is. Sometimes I'll go 1.75 if I feel like I'm missing out or I'm multitasking and really want to dig in and make sure I'm fully grasping everything that's being talked about. But I'll catch a stream live on 1x and I'm like, can you guys hurry this up, man. It's just, what are we doing here? So I can't even listen to my own videos. And I will say, editing Jeremy's video, shout out to Jeremy. He's great. The content is awesome. Man, it is tough. I got to figure out a way to edit at 2x speed. I haven't gotten there yet as a video editor. But no, I power through. The content is good enough for me to power through. What's up, Jacob? I sent Chase Brown, George Pickens, and Jalen Royals for Rashee Rice and Trey Benson. It's PPR 10 by 10. Would you trade? We could take Royals and Benson. I don't think you would for sure cancel them out, but I think the crux of the deal is obviously in a 10 by 10, especially Chase Brown and Pickens for Rice. PPR 10 by 10.
For me on that one, I'm trying to come back around on Rashee Rice. I mean, you ask my Dynasty Theory brothers, the coach in me, I struggle when players get in a lot of trouble. And I know a lot of NFL guys do, and I'm sure Rashee Rice is going to bounce back and hopefully stay on the right path and have a long, fruitful career for Dynasty football here. But, like, multiple incidents in a short time, like, the guy's just a rockhead. And I really do like Chase Brown, and I guess George Pickens isn't a choir boy either there, so try not to be a Dallas homer, but his body language was just terrible a year ago. I could not move Pickens shares before he went to the Cowboys. Then he goes to my Cowboys, and I'm trying to obtain him, and everyone wants the world for him, so it's kind of tricky. But value of Chase Brown, just a little more premier than Benson right now. I'd be okay with Pickens over Rice, or even though I have Rice ranked higher, I like the Chase Brown side, and Royals is just a nice little throw-in.
Yeah,
that's close. That's a good
yeah,
deal.
I think it's pretty fair. I think these kind of like shallow enough leagues make me fine with kind of doing the consolidation and going up for like an asset I think could jump into. I'm not gonna state it as a confident thing, but in terms of we talked about underdog drafts where the expectations are for Rashee Rice, and not that underdog should be the end all be all of expectations for the next season for players, but I think it's a good barometer for what people are anticipating as far as production. But yeah, I think I want to ask you about Pickens. Do you think he is longer? He's going to be a Cowboy longer than just this season?
I'm not confident in that. I'd say it's 50-50 right now, Will, because they've got to make a decision this offseason whether they're going to pay a top corner and like a Duran Bland who, I don't know. Hey, we're all offense on the fantasy football world, right? Yeah. Unless you're playing the IDP leagues. They have a young corner in Duran Bland who, if he has a good season bouncing back from injury, should get paid a lot. So it'll come down to whether Dallas wants to pay in the cornerback position or the wide receiver position. I think that's got to pan out a little bit for Dallas. They drafted a corner in the 3rd round. Maybe if he pans out and if they keep Diggs, maybe they do pay a Pickens. But it's not going to be an easy one. So odds are I'm banking on him having a good year in Dallas and then getting paid buco bucks somewhere else. And I've followed Pickens back to the Georgia Bulldog days. I'm a Georgia fan as well. Don't hold that against me. But he has talent. I just think he really needs the right situation. Otherwise, we saw what it could get like in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. No, and I'm pretty excited about Pickens this season. I think we could talk about the quarterbacks, the offensive scheme the Steelers have had for the past couple seasons, and hard to not get excited about Dak Prescott, and not even mentioning the current running back room for the Dallas Cowboys. You expect them to lead on the pass this season a little bit, especially with the Jaden Blue draft pick as well. But yeah, I think the interesting part of this trade, and I don't want to get too into it, but Chase Brown. I'm kind of curious your thoughts on Chase Brown. I feel like if Chase Brown was a 2nd round pick, he would be going near Rashee Rice based off of how last season ended for him.
Yeah, and that's what tilts me there. Like, I really like Chase Brown. Like, he is the Cincinnati Bengals backfield. Is going to get a lot of volume. They didn't draft anyone real. They don't have anyone pressing him for competition. He catches the ball, so he's going to get receptions in the PPR format. And he's 25. He's in his prime. I think he just needs to stay healthy for 1 year. So that's where, like, even though I know Rice is, a few pegs over Pickens in the rankings, Trey Benson's just the unknown, so I hate to give up that stud running back in Chase Brown and Pickens, and that's where I lean that side. Shallow league, I like the way you're thinking, Will, with, hey, you go for the marquee guy in Rice and you better your roster that way. I just think you're giving up 2 studs for 1 and Benson being the unknown.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Yeah, and I know a lot of people are excited about Tosh Brooks specifically, but I think, you just talk about Tosh Brooks, draft capital, and I think I don't think the Bengals want to use Chase Brown the exact same way they used him last season. I don't think any NFL team wants to give a running back 90+% work share. It's just not sustainable or reliable or something teams want to do. But hard to not get excited about any percentage of the role that Chase Brown had last season for that Bengals team.
For the most part, it's a 2 running back league. As long as for Dynasty or us in fantasy, that running back you have is getting enough volume to make it worthy. So hopefully at some point someone takes a little pressure off Chase Brown just so he's healthy for a 17-week season. But he's really in a great situation.
Yeah. I refuse to roster players that have been in any legal trouble. I only have 3 players on my team. Oh, man. I told myself I'd stop bringing this up, but I feel like I just have to acknowledge it every time I think about it in my mind. But the Deshaun Watson, the first year that he was suspended for the Browns, Will was really excited for his first year punt team to start with a early 3rd round Deshaun Watson suspended for the majority of the season, locked in, so he could get that 1-on-1 next season. That part of the plan worked. The Deshaun Watson being an elite quarterback plan, the part of the plan did not work. And I think that's on me.
That's one of the most unique situations in NFL history there. For him to get paid as much as he did, coming off an injury with the type of off-field incident he had, was just mind-boggling. But that's the Cleveland Browns for you.
It is. Who is the real quick, just while the Browns mentioned, who is the week 1 starter for the Browns, if you had to guess right now?
That has to be the hardest thing to guess in the world. And I think it's gonna be either whoever they keep between Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. I think they're just going to take their time with the rookies. And then, I like Shedeur the best. I liked him going into the draft. I still can't wrap my mind around what happened draft day, what's true, what's not true.
Yeah.
I think that's all going to flesh itself out over time, and the cream rises to the top. And I think that's going to be Shedeur Sanders, but I don't think it'll be by week 1. We talked about following beat writers a little bit before, and a little bit of what I'm hearing is it's going to be Flacco or Pickett. They're not going to get rid of either of those rookies. They plan on keeping them. They've invested the draft capital in them. So I think Flacco or Pickett will start. I think in Dynasty and Fantasy, we're hoping it's Flacco because we know he at least, brings some fantasy production out of the receivers. If it's Pickett, I'd be a little bit worried, but then that's probably a quicker path to either Gabriel or Sanders.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think it's hard to believe that a not making the playoffs Browns team is going to continue to start Joe Flacco with all those QBs on the roster. So could definitely see, and I will say I was talking down on people taking Shedeur in the late 2nd of rookie drafts. I was just kind of really clinging to the draft capital, the whole situation. The NFL would not do this to a player they think could start in the league is where I was at. But I think you do have to acknowledge there's some weird energy versus just him being that level of quarterback to go at that point in the draft.
And I have to give like a quick shout out to comeback player of the year 2 years ago, Joe Flacco. I was listening to this one podcast. It was the GM Shuffle at the time, and they love talking like, comeback player of the year, who to bet. And he's like, I would bet on Joe Flacco for player of the year. So I threw $100 on Joe Flacco for comeback player of the year and won $5,000. Will
Dang.
It was just a great Christmas. So Joe Flacco, thank you if you're listening. I heard Joe Flacco tunes into the Dynasty Daddy show.
Let's go. Shout out Joe Flacco. Thank you for watching. And yeah, Dan, you gotta send me a DM when you get your next comeback player of the year long shot. I'll throw $100 on that. Probably $10. I'm not gonna. Will doesn't have $100 to throw around at this point. We keep getting
a win's a win.
That's true. All right, we've got I have Lad and MHG on my team as a trust the process. Should I try to tier up with MHJ, or what would you do? Also, KTC, Lad, MHJ, or London. So I think that first part of the question is really tough as a trust the process, because that, to me, I'm assuming that the tier up from MHJ to an elite receiver by giving up draft capital is not something I want to do with a trust the process team. I'm assuming you are not strong enough to be contending this season. I think like splitting is something I would want to do if you were trying to turn into a competing team, but not necessarily like I think MHJ has the juice to split at this point. So I'd be curious to see what the rest of the team looks like, roster format. So with that being said, Lad, MHJ, or London. Dan, you're in a startup. You're on the clock. What order you click in those three?
This is hard and this is close.
You know
Love
what the
all
answer?
these players.
The answer is, and I did this in the startup. Sorry to interrupt. Is trade up for Nico. That's what I did in my last startup. But I'm higher on Nico than
I
most.
can't argue with that. I think this is one where like, or do you trade back and take whoever you get, you know, in a startup? Because you can't go wrong. I don't think with any of those guys. I mean, the three we're talking about as far as the question, I've got London ranked the highest, so I'll trust my rankings here. I just really got this gut feeling that he's going to have a breakout year. You know, the Cardinals offense, you know, inconsistent. Kyler just worries me sometimes. Although I like the offseason Harrison's had, and I think there'll be an uptick. But, so I'd go London, but you can't go wrong with any of those guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about. I'd probably lean London and Lad over MHJ, and I think for me the Marvin Harrison thing is, I think there's a world, and the rookie season was disappointing for expectations, not for a rookie wide receiver. But with that being said, I think I would have liked something to change as far as offensive coordinator, quarterback. Not that I'm that anti Kyler, but in terms of having the expectation that he will take that next step and be worth the price that people were drafting last season. And I think I just feel better about Lad and Drake London for this next season, production wise.
It's a hard one for me, the Harrison McConkey piece, because like I was higher on Harrison, and there's another thing the Dynasty Theory boys will joke on me about. I love the NFL genetics. If your dad was a Hall of Famer, there's a good chance you're going to be a Hall of Famer or something really good in fantasy football at least. And I think that is Marvin Harrison, and like his offseason conditioning's through the roof. I do believe him and Kyler spent a lot more time. Like I really expect a good jump there, but it is hard to go away from Lad, who did it year one, and you know he's still going to get that same volume from Justin Herbert, and hopefully some of those other receivers take some coverage away from him and step up a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair, and I do think, I mean, we all remember. I'm sure we all watched the red zone or Cardinals games where the back shoulder throw was just a little bit off, and Marv could have easily had 3 or 4 more touchdowns last season, for sure. All right, Coach Dan likes Chase Brown. Got to know his feelings on Jacoby Myers before we could officially accept him. Jeremy's a big Jacoby Myers guy. That's college related.
I like Jacoby Myers. I think where he's going in drafts, like I have no issue hitting that draft button and putting him on my rosters. Not necessarily trading up for him. I think they got Beck in there, Jack Beck. So there's a little bit of help at the receiver position. Their offense is definitely getting better. Still worry a little bit about the Raiders' offensive line. That's the one thing I would have liked to see them invest a little bit more in. So it might be another year away, but he's a weak RB1 there in Vegas.
Hard to not get excited about. I would just say just the change for the Raiders, right? You talk about Geno versus what Jacoby's been dealing with the past couple seasons. I think the Chip Kelly offensive pace, just Pete Carroll just as a head coach. I like Jacoby for where he's at. I know the big hype piece and the best thing has been the Dante Thornton, right? The news reports that he's getting the first team snaps. I think that might be. I mean, I am going to put on my Will pretending to know ball hat, and I think that Trey Tucker ran I think he was like the 25th most routes last season, just in terms of like clear out. His probably target per route run is probably lowest in the NFL. So I think they just would love to plug in a 6'5" guy that can do that for them and kind of clear out speed 6'5" guy that can do that. And then I think Besh probably fits more with what Jacoby does receiver wise. And Jacoby's just a better player at this point. So that's my guess as to like that situation and why that's happening. But that's
I think that's a real strong.
Ball.
I think you're spot on there, Will, because I think the Raiders have been trying to find a way out of Trey Tucker, and every coach who's been there is like, he needs to do this, to get better. And I just think they haven't had anyone else, so he at least stretches the field. I think Thornton will take that job, and what I'm interested to see is really like, I think Geno's definitely a step up from where they are, but I don't think that's saying much. Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, like that was a brutal quarterback situation that no team should ever be in as your starting options. So they go to Geno, but and maybe this is just Dan being mad from like a late season DraftKings contest where I was in the running for a top prize and I had Geno and Metcalf in the second half of the game, and they had one completion amongst each other the whole second half. And I'm watching that game really closely, and it was so painful to watch, Will. Like, unless it was JSN who does a great job to getting open, I'm not sure if it was Geno that couldn't create or DK that couldn't separate or a combination of both. So I'm kind of like out on both of those guys a little bit. That again, that may
Sounds
just
like a
be me
personal
being
vendetta.
mad and salty at DraftKings and them ruining my day. So we'll see how much it elevates the Kobe Myers, but definitely a better situation.
Yeah. I think regardless of the opinions, I think it would be tough to put those guys up against or put Geno up against Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew and not be a little bit more excited at the very least. But I got a fact check here. Trey Tucker was 5th most roster run. I remember seeing that, and I didn't believe it when I saw it. And so I think that's why I said 25th, is because my brain was like, this has to be a lie. You have to make this a little more believable. And 25th was way off. But still,
he's very good at running those wind sprints. You know.
All right, so we got some Trey Tucker love from John P here. I think he could be. All right, the Temu stuff. Do we want Temu Shaheed on our dynasty rosters? Are we? Is this a player we're trying to acquire? I think the thing with the Trey Tucker, and I don't even want to like talk too down on Trey Tucker, but I think there's a reason that we are seeing first team snaps for the 6'5" speedster, and I think it might be Trey Tucker based.
Again, teams tell you what they're doing by the draft and where they're playing in camp and what they're seeing. And we'll see even more when the real camp starts.
Yeah.
There's no more Trey Tucker on my rosters, and any shares left are exiting via the free agent waiver wire this week.
I will say, I know we got the mini camp risers and fallers. Will's got to come up with the clickbait title and the thumbnail. Okay, guys, I know we haven't really got into camp risers, but I guess a little bit. The mentions have come up naturally. But no, I will say, I think we talked about the following like 32 beat writers and being really in tune with camp reports and everything. And I think the average dynasty player doesn't really have a full picture of what the NFL offseason really looks like. So I think people hear stuff about Egbuka, and I love Egbuka. All right, but I'm going to use him as an example. Egbuka looks amazing. Baker keeps connecting with him. He's incredible. Like there's no joint practices. These guys aren't full pads, like running and hitting. There is like kind of like the 7-on-7 vibe stuff that does happen. Like for sure that's happening at this point. But I think people need to have a larger picture of the full timeline of the rookie mini camp into, mini camp into actual joint practices and everything. So I wouldn't get too out of our skis on certain guys, especially like guys like Dante Thornton, first team snap stuff. Like you'll hear those reports, and I think those are like pick up this guy and monitor, but they're not let me send my 4th plus a good player, for this, 4th, 5th round receiver.
Spot on. Like those good reports on Thornton is okay. Hey, I could take him in the last round of a best ball draft if I have Geno, or hey, those 4th round rookie draft pick. I feel good about using my 4th round pick on Thornton, and he'll sit at the back of my roster and hopefully he develops over time over a couple of years. But the expectations are really low, and you raise a good point of just following the offseason. There's voluntary camp, and then there's the mandatory camp, but there's no contact. There's minimal physicality whatsoever. So you're just not seeing a lot, but you're getting little answers, little pieces to the puzzle. And, as we hit that month before the NFL season starts, we'll learn a lot more.
Mm-hmm. All right. I mentioned the Egbuka. We've got a golden question right here. I'm going to preface this question by saying everyone in the chat needs to be aware that I was watching a certain live stream last night, and I heard a certain co-host of mine currently say that they would take Matthew Golden over Egbuka. And I will say it's not, when I really thought about it, it really shouldn't be fall out of my chair worthy, but I think I'm just so high in Egbuka that I just could not accept it. So if anyone has thoughts in the chat, Egbuka or Golden, let's hear it. Because we've got an Egbuka guy, we got a Golden guy, but I think you probably like Egbuka as well. You're just saying your first year projection, you're a little bit more excited about the Golden situation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's more my draft strategy. And it's, hey, if you're comparing them one for one, I'd rather Ibuka. Like I see that. I see why people are taking him there. And I think, hey, Mike Evans isn't getting any younger. Chris Godwin's not getting any younger. Great situation there in Tampa Bay, long term for him. I'd rather someone take Ibuka a couple rounds earlier in a startup and just let them have him, and give me Golden in that situation where Green Bay's drafting him to be their wide receiver one, r- kind of right away. Like if they've got a lot of receivers, I don't think they're gonna put a lot of heavy pressure on him, right out of the gates. But I just like getting him a little bit later than Ibuka's going. People just don't seem to like Golden. They just don't. He was sliding in rookie startups. Rookie drafts. He's sliding in startups. So I just like getting him at a little bit better value, and I do like the talent. He's one of the rookies before he even landed in Green Bay. I liked him. We talked about people we follow, right? So I love watching Steve Smith's videos for the former Carolina, Baltimore Raven receiver who's a Hall of Famer, and he's been pretty accurate. We talk about coach speak and what coaches are accurate and what they're saying. Steve Smith's been pretty good of identifying guys that are going to hit right away or going to take a little longer to develop. He was big on Matthew Golden too, so I'm like, hey, I like this film. My buddy Steve Smith, I call him my buddy. Steve Smith liked his film there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's more situation, Will. I think, I probably could have given more context on the DT show.
No, no, no. I like that. And I do think that, like I do with the imagination scenarios that I like to talk about for, it's a week 3 and this is the scenario. What are you getting for this player versus this player? And I think there will be patience with Ibuka. And I think a lot of times it's the corollaries to what we've seen previously. So JSN, obviously, perfect example from a couple seasons ago where drafted to crowded situation with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. He even had the injury too. That was another thing. I think it was like an arm injury or something he was missing some of camp and had a cast on for a little bit. And I think that corollary specifically, people will kind of cling onto, and Ibuka will hold value through that because people know how good Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are. And 2 seasons from now, we could see Mike Evans, retire for the Bucks, and great situation for Ibuka as well. And obviously Chris Godwin just signed the contract, but I think there is a scenario where Golden week 1, week 2 just is looking, wow, 24% target share. Like, oh, he is the guy. First read, stuff's looking great. He just went 6 for 80 and a touchdown. Like, we should have been taking this guy at the 107 kind of deal. Like, I think that's within the realm of possibilities. And I do think that the Packers pass rate will increase. I know we were just talking about this before the show earlier, but 2023, more middle of the pack, 57% pass rate for the Packers. And obviously last season with the Jordan Love injury, we saw the Malik Willis games. They were actually the 3rd lowest, 49.3% last season. So that's a huge discrepancy between what we all thought was the Jordan Love breakout season versus the injury riddled Malik Willis tough season for the Packers offensively. And Josh Jacobs plays a little bit a part of that as well. But I do think it would not surprise me at all if we see them closer to the middle of the pack, and Matthew Golden, the first round pick, is a big part of that.
I'm hoping he takes a lot of those deep targets that Watson would get and be that guy that hits that 3 for 1 something.
Man.
Get a little bit of that love. And I did a 14-team startup recently, and Ibuka went at the end of the 5th round in this 14-teamer.
Wow.
And I wasn't going to get him in the 5th,
okay.
5th round. I think I took Loveland in the middle of the 5th round, but at the end of the 6th round, I got Golden. So 14 picks later, again, I just like that kind of value.
Yeah. I just realized we didn't answer the question. So we'll get to that the second part of this one. You have Golden on a contender and you need to upgrade. And that's a kind of an interesting part, and we can get to that in a second. Would you move him for someone like Jameson Williams, who I think is pretty similar startup value-wise, and I think you would project, better production for JMO, at least for, the first half of the season versus the Matthew Golden. Is that, as a Matthew Golden enjoyer, Dan, would you trade him away on a contender for someone like JMO?
I think I would need more than JMO. JMO's another one of those off-season ones where I'm kind of trying to figure out, like, he was kind of a sleeper for me last year, and we finally got a little more of the JMO we hoped for. And, I love them at Alabama. But we hear all these reports from good sources that they're trying to trade him. And then now we're hearing, hey, he could be this stud receiver. Like, what's JMO going to be? Like, so I'm trying to kind of figure that out. I think he is another guy that does struggle to keep the off the field stuff together. Hopefully he continues to do so. But if I'm going to trade up, like I have Golden and JMO in kind of like a close tier. I want someone a little bit better. Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, who could you get? Maybe Devontae Smith. I don't know if
What,
he's
what would you
certainly
add on
enough of an
to?
upgrade.
What would you add on? Would you do like Golden? I don't think you could get T. Higgins for Golden in a second. You'd have to get more than that for sure. What about? You could probably do. I'm sure you could get Zay Flowers for Golden in a second, or is that too much for you?
Yeah, Zay's a guy I've been able to obtain in the offseason because not everyone's just high on Zay. And I'm
Yeah.
willing to give up a first round. Like, most of my rosters compete. So I'm anticipating my first to be late first. And I would assume this person who's talking about being on a contender is looking, hey, my first is a late first. So do you give up Golden in a late first? And hey, throw a few trades out there, throwing out for Flowers, JSN, Higgins. See which owner's willing to take that bite for the first and Golden. And again, considering if your roster is that strong enough for it to be a late first, I think that's how you trade up.
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I tend to get a little kooky with these moves. I know you're not a big oldie enjoyer, but when I have a guy like Golden Buka and I want to fill out my wide receiver spot, I feel like I'm more likely to do the how can I find a way to turn Golden into like Devontae Adams and I get a pick back. You have to find the certain teams that are willing to do that and are willing to kind of play ball and give you a second to get the young receiver. That might be a difficult one to do because I assume they would want to be searching for a different type of move as a rebuilder. But I tend to go that way versus trading for a similar young player who I project slightly better. That gets a little player takey, and I don't trust myself. John P. here. Who's your comeback player of the year this year? Coach Dan.
Comeback player of the year. I haven't heard. That's a great question, man.
I wonder what Hutchinson's at. And I think a lot of it can be like injury related.
I think if we're looking at comeback player of the year, like I was talking the last episode of Dynasty Theory where I'm starting to realize like TJ Hawkinson is a guy I should be paying a little bit more attention because I'm a little bit lower and kind of out on him, and I shouldn't because everybody's talking about Hawkinson. He was an elite tight end value. He could be a guy. I know DJ Moore had kind of a down year, and he's a guy I've always kind of liked, even though I've really starting to rise on the Rome Odunze train. I know Ray's been all over Rome. But I do think if you believe in the Bears offense, I think there's enough volume there for Rome and DJ Moore.
Yeah, I'm not texting, guys. I'm trying to look up the awards here and who's got the highest, like on the sports books.
Brees Hall's a guy that could bounce back. You hear him saying, "Hey, I didn't have a good year last year." He should be elite running back.
Oh man, a tear shed from my eye looking at Aiden Hutchinson having the highest defensive player of the year odds coming off the injury. Let's go.
Will, I didn't know you were a Lions fan until tonight. Mitch on Dynasty Theory, he's a Lions fan. I have a couple other friends that are Lions fans, and I think probably a good chunk of America was rooting for Detroit last year because they're that team that you feel the Detroit spirit of those hard workers, and it's been a long time.
And how can you not love Dan Campbell?
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Hey, I find myself wanting to run through a wall for him, but I don't want the wife yelling at me if I break anything. But that injury was a tough one, especially when your defense was thinner last year. That was a tough blow.
And that was the Dallas game too. Yeah, I'm sure you watched that one live. That was tough.
You never like to see that, even against my Cowboys. I never like seeing those kind of injuries. Get some cramps, maybe go out for the game, but nothing serious.
Yeah. No, it was man, I'm gonna shed a tear, and it's not just a sick tear. If the Patriots can actually swing 8 more wins, I think Vrabel takes Coach of the Year. This is a biased Patriots fan. I want to say the sports books are pretty high on kind of like the Patriots bounce back. I think their win total was higher than I was expecting. Kind of want to pull that one up.
I'm a Vrabel believer. He was a guy I was hoping my Cowboys would get. I think there's just certain coaches in the National Football League that players gravitate for, and they get the best out of them. And Vrabel's that kind of guy. Now, are this
a lot of those former player coaches
all the way there yet? I think it's tough to get there in 1 year. I think they'll take a step this year, but I think you'll see more of it next season.
I want you to guess. I don't know how. I'm not an avid line watcher for futures, but I like checking them when we're talking about stuff like this on trade shows and everything. What do you think the Patriots win total is set at I'm just checking on DK. I'm on DraftKings Sportsbook right now.
I feel like from everything I've been reading and seeing that there's a lot of Rabo Drake May Kool-Aid out there.
I'm drinking it.
Then you're with Miami Jets. Bills is the cream of the division. The 9 maybe. Is
Great
9
guess.
drinking the Kool-Aid for a
Over
team like
8.5 is minus 120 on DK. Great guess.
Okay. I think that's what you're hoping for as a Patriots fan. Hey, could they squeak out 9 wins in that division? Miami's got their share of challenges. The Jets are the Jets. We'll see. What do you think? How will your boy Aaron Glenn do with the Jets?
I do like Aaron Glenn, and I think people vastly underrate what like culture change does for NFL teams, especially a team as talented as the Jets. I think for sure defensively, and I think there are some interesting pieces on offense. Obviously, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, I think are exceptional talents, but yeah, I think they could be a surprise team and kind of on the border of pushing for the playoffs. I like Fields too as a winner of football games. I think he. And I always joke about the reason I knew the Jets were going to be confident in Justin Fields and give him the chance for sure this season and for the next is you look at some of those Lions-Bears games where Justin Fields is running for like 110 yards. Aaron Glenn saw every bit of that. He was like, I cannot contain this man. He was happy to get that on his side.
I'm happy for Fields. I think he did get in a good situation, and I've been hard on Fields historically on Dynasty Theory because I just don't believe him as a passer.
Yeah,
you see the work the kid's putting in, and he's making like those incremental steps. And if you get a team that believes in him and takes the pressure off of him, and I think we're seeing reports that the Steelers did want him back. I think he's got at least an opportunity to extend his career for a few years. And hey, if he runs like he does, we know that's good for fantasy. Really good for fantasy.
Mm-hmm. We've got was just offered Calvin Ridley for a 27th third. I smashed accept. Am I a fool or is he? Ooh. And this is a contender one last year. I think that's a smash. And John P here, 8% hit rate on third rounders. I think that's a great trade. I don't know where that net number's coming from, but I believe it. I think you look at the third round. I mean, I would just highly recommend anyone that's trying to make trades, not exactly sure how to value like picks like the second or third rounds. Classes are different, obviously, class to class, but I would just highly recommend go into your league, hit the previous league tab, check those rookie drafts from the past 3, 4, 5 seasons, and think about X player in the third round getting to have the production of somebody like Calvin Ridley for even a couple of seasons versus, the player you took that you're dropping off your roster now this season.
Yeah, that's a shocker. The gentleman who got Calvin Ridley there, man, have a toast tonight, celebrate, kick your feet up. You scored a good one. I'm looking at this year's my third round rookies, and there's nobody this year, probably any year. I could even go back a couple years and look at third round guys. And there were some gems, 2 years ago, Bucky Irvin might have been a third round gem that came out of there. But yeah, the percentages are low. Even if you have a high hit rate, like Calvin Ridley's just really set for a couple good years of production yet.
Yeah. I was told I sold really low. And I could see the perspective. I sold Najee for 2/3 in a league, and that was a league. I need to be able to take shots on a team, and Najee is not giving me anything that I care about for this season. But I think I like this one. MHJ, almost identical numbers as his dad's rookie year. His dad turned out to be a pretty good wide receiver.
I did see that stat, and it makes you feel a little bit better about last season. Again, there's nothing but positive. I just hope we can see some more out of Kyler, more consistency out of Kyler. He's that quarterback that 1 week just looks awesome and you're proud to have him on your dynasty team. And then goes through those stretches where you're like, is this what we're getting? So we'll see. McBride having like no touchdowns till the end last year. Like that's a crime.
Yeah.
Hopefully he could support him more.
Oh, does everyone remember? I want everyone needs to watch the clip of Trey McBride just throwing his hands up in anger and frustration when he was in the like far right corner of the end zone wide open and Kyler's scrambling around and then throws the ball away. That is the perfect culmination of the Kyler Murray quarterback experience. But I agree.
I think I was doing the same thing on my couch because I think late in the year I just kept racking McBride in Dynasty. It's like he has to score a touchdown now, right? Like the law of average, like the regression had to come, and it just never did. Will until the
it was like a fumble. He had a fumble recovery touchdown. That was one of them. after
Real.
the Hall of Fame genetics talk, should I pick up Brendan Rice, Frank Gore Jr., and Tariq Owens? Oof. Joking, but you're helping me love Mason Taylor even more. You got a favorite?
Mason Taylor, I'm with you.
I was gonna ask, do you have a favorite kind of non-Loveland Warren rookie tight end? I feel like there's some interesting guys, and one of the guys who probably wasn't getting a lot of buzz but is now is Rondé Gatson for the Chargers. I feel like that's a name you're hearing a lot, and that's partly probably a little bit of Harbaugh loves talking about his guys, but we're getting some good Roman quotes as well.
Yeah, this is I love this tight end class, and I think it was like early in the dynasties or early in the offseason. Mitch from Dynasty Theory says this is the year that you fix your tight end room because we always know, hey, if we don't have Bowers or McBride, Laporta, Kittle, you could go down a little bit Andrews, Hawkinson, even though there's been some injuries and some inconsistencies, but you don't get those guys. You're mixing and matching and trying to figure out your tight end situation. This rookie class really does give a little bit of a nice influx. Mason Taylor's been my guy. He does follow that NFL genetics. His dad was a freak. His uncle was the linebacker for the Dolphins. It was a Zach. Why am I drawing a blank right now? A Hall of Fame career. The Hall of Fame dad and a Hall of Fame uncle, both from Miami Dolphins. I believe I'm drawing up. Zach Taylor? Am I saying it? No, not Zach Taylor. Zach
Taylor,
Thomas. Zach Thomas.
With the St. Louis running back, Zach Taylor.
I don't know where I was pulling that from, but no, Zach Thomas was the linebacker, and then his dad was Jason Taylor. So the genetics are just through the roof with this kid. But I also liked his college film. I like his situation with the Jets. He's gonna be their guy. So to me, he was. If I don't get Warren or Loveland, or hey, I'd like to have them both. To be honest with you, I like Arroyo a bit too. I think he's entering a good situation. I'm just waiting for the Seahawks to trade Noah Fant. And then, hey, Ferguson's not a bad one with the Rams. I think he's got to be a little bit more patient because Higbee's still there. And then you mentioned Oronde Gadsden. I think you got to be patient there too because I think they got like Will Disley and
they
some
got
other
Conklin.
decent tight end.
Yeah, they just got Conklin this season as well. Yeah, the Ferguson
like
one.
Dynasty, we're out on him, but
yeah, the Ferguson one is really interesting to me, and not even getting into the prospect, but purely what the teams are telling us in the situation. I think there's a lot of buzz about the Rams trying to trade up for Bowers the previous year, and then I know there was some buzz about the Rams trading up this season, and I believe the thought was it was for Tedero McMillan, but I think I'm totally making this up. All right, don't quote me and don't hold me on this, and don't trade away your second round picks for Ferguson, but I think there's a world where it was a Colston Loveland or something, and maybe they really want to have kind of that Bowers mold Colston Loveland tight end, and are hoping Ferguson can do what Higbee and the other insert Rams tight end that we thought was going to break out here is going to do for the past couple of seasons.
Yeah. They know Higbee's not getting younger, so they have to find that replacement. They've been looking for that replacement. And even the NFL, I mean, hey, tight end's a physical position. Guys do get injured, so you need depth. You can also run, 12 personnel and have the two tight ends, and they have not been able to find anyone else to complement Higbee. And when Higbee is out, they haven't been happy with anyone. Like Stafford just ignores the tight ends for the most part there. So I think he's got an opportunity as long as he develops to produce somewhat in 12 personnel and have a role. Higbee's 32, so we know in football years that's getting up there. Tight ends last a little bit longer. Time is coming.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's say this is a 12-team start 10. Braylon Allen and George Pickens for the 108. Who wins? I'm gonna start with the Cowboys fan here. Are you giving up the 108 for Pickens?
5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going back. I'm looking at my rookie rankings, and I like Braylon Allen too. So to me, it's not just about Pickens.
Yeah.
I like the potential of Allen, but I would say it depends who's there in my draft format. What's the settings? I love drafts this year where Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland slid. If it's a tight end premium, I'm taking the pick if a Warren or Loveland's on the board there. If we're in a startup and that's what we're looking at, or if we know we could get him. Travion Henderson's a guy I'd rather have. I would take Pickens and Allen over. This is close. I say McMillan. Now sometimes he goes higher.
Yeah. Yeah, I would assume that's kind of
tough.
one of
That's tough, man.
those your favorite
I wish it was
second set of
109
running
here.
backs. Yeah. I assume it's like you're in the. I mean, Harvey's probably fallen down rookie drafts right now, just with the J.K. Dobbins signing. But I assume like Quinshawn. If you wanted to push up Ibuka, those tight ends, I think it's pretty fair. I do like Pickens a decent amount, but I think the nice thing about the 108 is the flexibility in the rookie draft. Man, it doesn't happen in every league, but if you can find the rookie drafts where you're able at that. I really like doing it at the 10, kind of that 107 range and trading back and seeing what I can get and kind of staying within that end of the first round and being able to take, whatever of those running backs falls or, I really like Ibuka. So I've been happy to trade back a little bit and take that. We've got a Golden in year 1, Ibuka year 2 and beyond. I can get behind that. But,
That's what was nice about this year's rookie draft. Like, if you had a late first round, the Bucas were getting there. The Goldens were going. Golden was even very often going into the early second, and that's where I found myself trading up a lot and being aggressive going after Golden because of him going into that second. And then again, you got those running backs and Harvey and Caleb Johnson and Judkins, and it was a really nice draft this year. Even at to have some good second round capital.
Yeah. I'm trying to catch up on. And let us know if there's any other questions, but I can kind of close this out, and Will can take a nap, and Dan can hit his what's Dan doing post stream? Is this Dan bedtime when you're hopping off?
Post stream, I might get a little time with my teenage boy there before he crashes for the night, and then get ready for work the next day and that kind of thing. But it depends what night it is too. Will
Mm-hmm. Is that
Tuesday night? There's no WWE tonight. There's no football tonight.
Well, there's the
night, I guess.
The question here is that a Boomer jersey hanging on the wall?
That is a Boomer Esiason jersey, and then the story behind that is I've done some nonprofit work for former University of Maryland running back Charlie Wysocki, creating awareness for mental health. A lot of members of the Maryland network supported Charlie, and Charlie lives locally in my area. That's how I got connected. And the guy who runs the nonprofit runs Boomer Esiason's nonprofit. My birthday is on July 4th, so I got the nickname Boomer. So I've always been a Boomer Esiason fan. So it's the combination of the nonprofit work, who knows Boomer, and an old nickname, that jersey behind me.
Love that.
Must be a Bengals fan or somebody that knows
right
that one.
Could recognize that immediately, because it was I will say on the stream, the way I have you set up, I think you got to know to be able to recognize that, because I'm only seeing an E, an S, an I, and an A, part of an A. So that was love that.
I cut off a little there. And I'm a Cowboy homer, so everything's either Cowboys or in this office here. I got a lot of like Rocky collection and Amari Cooper jersey, but Cooper's a little hidden because my Cowboys let him go. Oh, no one wants him. Will, I'm heartbroken.
Man, I'm curious to see what the end of the Amari Cooper career is going to look like, because I was a believer last season, and I definitely fell for the traded to the Buffalo Bills baits, because I was a big Amari Cooper guy.
Yeah. I remember the last game he had with Flacco, he had like 16 catches. I'm like, all right, there's still gas in the tank. He was awesome with the Cowboys. He's only 30. I mean, I know we're, Dynasty 30 could be like a sin, but should be a couple years left. And so it's an odd situation. Part of it, I think, is his injury history. Is the reason Coach McCarthy in Dallas was out on him is because he didn't practice a lot. That was the whole McCarthy issue he had with him. He wanted his guys practicing, and Cooper did not. He'd just always be ready for game day, though.
We've got a call out to Puka, 4th rounder in his rookie draft. Legendary Will draft moment. I have one draft that's in person. I don't think I've told this story before, but it's worth telling. One draft that's in person. It's my home league. All my friends from high school. We get together every year and we do the draft. The commissioner dresses up in a suit and he reads off every single pick. We write it down on a little notepad. We go into a separate room to like trade negotiate while we're on the clock if people want to trade for certain picks. It is a beautiful night.
That is fun.
There was a huge debate. Will is in the 4th round of the rookie draft, and he wants to draft a non-rookie because they are available in the player pool. You can set up the rookie draft to where you can draft players that are on waivers. And Will really wanted to get Jacoby Brissett. And this was the Commanders' year. He had Sam Howell, really wanted to lock up that quarterback room. Huge fight broke out. But don't worry, Will won. Got to draft Jacoby Brissett. Next pick, Puka Nacua off the board right after my Jacoby Brissett pick. That one, that'll keep you up at night.
Are you sure that's not why you're sweating tonight? Like, I still be having,
remembering.
flashbacks there.
Shout out to Alex from my home league. One of my best friends from high school. I gifted him Puka Nacua so that I could get my Washington QB room locked up. That was beautiful. But I ended up trading Sam Howell when he had some value in a big trade with Drake London to get Justin Jefferson. So all's well that ends well, right?
Made up for it. All right.
Somewhat. Definitely not, but I tried to. All right. Tracy and Scadaboo. Okay. So you get the Giants running back room. 2 26 thirds or Harvey and Njoku. And it's a 1 point tight end premium. So Tracy and Scat, 2 26 thirds for Harvey and Njoku.
I like the Harvey Njoku side.
I do too.
I'm kind of out on Scadaboo, or not out on him, but I mean, I think people forgot what a good year Tracy had last year. As long as he holds onto the ball, I think he's going to be the guy. But I'm taking Harvey a lot higher than Tracy. I'm taking Njoku. Like, that's a good tight end there. If I don't get one of the top guys, that's where I'm going.
And a full point tight end premium as well. I mean, that's no joke for a guy. What Njoku can give you.
In my philosophy, this is another thing I get busted for in the Discord or on the DT pod. I trade draft picks like candy. Like, I just burning them. Not all my rosters. I'm really playing to compete now, but I build my rosters very young. So, hey, if I don't reach that pinnacle of winning the league, or I fall a little bit short, my team's not down the tank next year because I have this aging old team. So to me, 2 future thirds is like, whatever. I could find a way to make that up. I'm not worried about Cam. That's a 2-for-1 trade in my sight. So, man, go get Harvey and David if you can.
Big Diaz offering some Will Amari Cooper copium here. I appreciate it. I think it was the trade, midseason scheme change, and it's not like Buffalo was throwing a ton either. That's totally fair too. And I know a lot of the like snap rate percentage and everything. It's hard for especially the wide receiver position. There were some reports about like Amari Cooper checking with other receivers on like what he's going to do on a route that he scores a touchdown on. I do think there is some gas in the tank. There's definitely Amari Cooper to the, I don't even know what the situation would be right now. It used to be the Chiefs. That used to be the barometer of how you would get excited about a receiver landing on a random place. It would be like if they went to the Chiefs. I'd have to think about it.
Isn't it like weird though? Like Chiefs, Bills, none of those receiver situations have quite been dynamic as we hope for, because we know the quarterbacks are all.
It's hopefully going to be Rice last year, and we saw a little bit of the Worthy, but yeah, no, I especially the quarterback versus wide receiver production too, and I guess quarterback for Mahomes as well. But
if the Chiefs receivers stay out of trouble this year, that could become interesting again. Like everybody on the field actually at once. Like we've seen a good Rice, we've seen a good Worthy. It'll be fun to watch.
Glad I took Jonathan Brooks over JD5. Speaking of great drafts, John P. I have made some terrible draft picks in my life. Is this 1 QB? Is that what it? Yeah, please tell me there's 1 QB.
So all right, it's tough.
All right, I am a contender.
Man, I feel bad for that kid.
Yeah, that's tough. That might be up there with Jacoby Brissett over Puka Nacua. It was the 4th round, so I don't feel as bad as I probably should. All right, I'm a contender, but most of my assets are aging. Saquon, Diggs, and JT. Dang, we got JT in the aging department. Is that's the RB landscape right there? JT in the aging parentheses. I was lucky enough to draft Ibuka, Golden, and Burden. Is the move to sell them for pieces or enjoy the yield? I think it's really relative. I think it's probably hard to move any of those rookie receivers at this point. I mean, maybe we get a crazy preseason game, or the camp reports continue to be bullish for a guy like Ibuka, and you can like get the value that people are expecting for year 2 and beyond for him right now. I'd be willing to hear those out, but hard to believe you're getting anything for Burden at this point. Being injured with a negative coach speak. Golden is probably tough as well, just because I think a lot of people are skeptical of the situation naturally. I think you would need to see it with a lot of these rookies to be able to really move them at this point.
He'll have to move Diggs somehow if he could. And maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Maybe he is healthy and not just spending time on the Love Boat, whatever he was doing there. Like, that's one of those head scratchers for me this offseason, how he got paid so much money coming off a serious injury when his play's been declining in general. We thought he was going to be really good in Houston. I just never really seen it. And he's another receiver that's not getting any younger. So, I'd love to. I'd be curious what the rest of the receivers are on his roster to say what it looks like. But I wouldn't be in a hurry to trade one of those talented rookies or a Saquon or JT. It sounds like he's got some makings of a nice team.
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to. You'd have to get a little creative, and you'd have to find the right manager to do this. But you take Diggs plus Ibuka. If you have a strong contending roster that like has enough assets, obviously you've got these three rookie wide receivers that it sounds like you don't even care about potentially even putting in your lineup at any point this season. But you kind of find a way to pair them with one of these older players. I mean, Diggs would be ideal if you could add on one of these rookie receivers to Diggs and make a team feel like they're getting production this season as well as dynasty value for the future, and you get to really move up a tier for production this season.
Done. Like that.
All right, was one QB. Okay. All right.
Better.
We are usually we're only about 2 hours in until, and I guess I do have to acknowledge Boo Lions Go Vikes. The company I work for is actually headquartered in Minnesota. I think I cursed JJ McCarthy when he had the injury leading into the season, because as a Michigan guy, I was going to a company visit. They like fly out the remote employees to come and visit at the company, and I had purchased a JJ McCarthy Michigan jersey and was going to wear it and be like, it's kind of cool. Like, I'm not wearing a Lions thing. It's like Michigan, but it's your quarterback. Like, this is all like a fun thing. And I never ended up wearing it because the night I was going to wear it is when the report dropped that he was going to be out for the entire season. So I think that's on me.
This is all because of you.
Yeah, I gotta
McCarthy owners
burn the jersey or something. It's my bad, guys.
The wheels on every Vikings fan's dartboard.
Will usually hits the I have to go pee wall about 2 hours in, but I might be hitting the I need to go to sleep wall here an hour and 20 in. So we'll close out. Do you have any closing? Just in general, any closing thoughts about? Let me know. You want me to lead you? I could be a good host and kind of lead you with the closing thoughts, or do you just want to drop some Coach Dan Dynasty wisdom on the people as we head our separate ways?
And I could go anywhere with this, buddy. I think that you had some good show notes for us. We hit a lot of really good trades tonight. I think we gave some people some good idea on sources. Hit those Twitter X lists to dig into some more good sources and cut out some of the clutter. And then just think you spend the rest of this off season. We're gonna have like a month of boredom almost. Do a lot of best ball drafts right now and keep tuning into Dynasty Daddy and Dynasty Theory, and we're gonna keep a lot of content coming. But then as camps reopen, getting ready for the season, that's when we want to see, hey, how's the conditioning of these teams? What role are they on the depth chart, and put the rest of the pieces together. So I guess I would just close on keep tuning into two really good podcasts to get a lot of good off-season content. Before you know it, it'll be go time.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the off-season is for the true sickos. I think when the camp reports come out, you get the casual Dynasty fans back. Like, people are actually starting to check their leagues post-rookie drafts when, there's actually practices happening. So there is an ability to have trade conversations and moves with the majority of people's leagues and teams. And I think we touched on it for sure, but it is react season. It is not overreact season. And I think every Dynasty, podcast, YouTube live stream will mention and talk through that a little bit. But I think the reality of those situations is, the first team lineup right now at your mini camp is not necessarily week one. And your rookie who is underperforming expectations is not a dead Dynasty asset. You can look back at past examples. I mean, we could do the JSN corollary and, look back at other players as well. But definitely stay tuned, stay connected. We'll be see you on Thursday night for the first ever Best Ball Dynasty Q&A. Like I said, I think right now it's just going to be me drafting best ball teams and yapping and talking. You guys can jump in those if you'd like. And definitely check out the Contender buys video on the YouTube channel. Maybe put it on. Maybe you let that thing play while you go to sleep tonight. Help us with our watch hours and our the YouTube analytics. Are you you ever been fall asleep listening to something? Coach Dan? Okay.
So sometimes we burn, both ends of the candle a little too much, and you're fighting to stay up late for those West Coast games, or listen. No doubt, Will. No doubt.
Okay. I've got a true crime wife, and we've had a lot of conversations about if it's a good idea to be letting a documentary about a serial killer play while we're sleeping in a room.
Yeah, that wouldn't be my first choice that late at night.
Currently the thought is no, is where we're at on that. But I'll let you guys know if that changes. Shout out to the real ones who show up here each week. Yes, thank you all. I mean, I say it every week with Jeremy. The live streams would be 30 times more boring if you guys weren't here talking through your trades, your teams, and kind of going back and forth with us. So I appreciate that. And double appreciation for Dan for stepping in for Jeremy. And shout out to Jeremy and Becca having a Dynasty daddy blast in Switzerland. Appreciate all you do for the community. Thank you all, and have a great night. Peace out.